Thanks so much, Joan. It's great to see everybody here. What a beautiful day in Vancouver. You can see why tourism numbers are setting records here in British Columbia. It's a beautiful place to be, whether you're in downtown Vancouver, in the far north, the east, the west, the interior, out on the island. You can't beat British Columbia. And for those of you who are staying close to home this year for your family vacations, thanks for doing that. And for those of you who are visiting British Columbia, welcome. It's great to be here. I am really glad to see special guests out in the audience. I see Robert Phillips out there. I see Terry Young, MLA for downtown Vancouver. I see Michael Goring from the Mining Association. It's very good to see a good group of people out here for today's announcement. And it reflects the importance of the work that we're doing here. You know, our country is under direct attack by the United States, specifically by the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Unfortunately, we're not unique in that. We're seeing an attack around the world on allies, particularly of the United States, from the President. No one can really make sense of why that's happening, but it is happening. And as we try to keep track of the multiple announcements of the President about attacking this sector or that sector or this country or this tariff, what we have to do as British Columbians, what we have to do as Canadians, is push ahead and make sure that we're building our economy to stand strong on our own 2 feet, diversifying our markets. And the proud thing for British Columbians is, although this is a time of great uncertainty and challenge for major industries in our province and in our country, is that we know that our province is positioned to be the engine of the new economy that we're building here in Canada. And we saw that recently with the Highland Valley Copper announcement, a $2.4 billion investment in our province by Teck, 1,900 jobs, shipping copper to markets in Asia. We've seen that through major investments. We shipped our first LNG cargo, the first Canadian LNG cargo ever, out of our northwest port in Kitimat to Asia. We are developing more than $50 billion in capital projects in this province that are either shovel-ready or are in approvals processes that we are excited about that are going to build this economy. So while there are challenges out there, we know that we will be the engine of the Canadian economy going forward in this very difficult time as we restructure to protect our sovereignty and protect Canadian jobs and respond to the attacks from White House that up until very recent memory was a close ally of Canada's. Now, there's something special about that engine in British Columbia, and that is that our engine is electric. One of our big advantages here in British Columbia is clean, cheap electricity. It attracts industry, it keeps industry here, and one of the things we know is that projects that are proposing to come to our province need to use more and more electricity than ever before. They want to use clean electricity, and in doing so, they produce the lowest carbon products in the world, and it doesn't matter what it is that's produced. We set records for having very low carbon emissions when products are produced here in British Columbia. And so that's one of the reasons why you saw a couple of months ago an announcement much like this over on Vancouver Island. We announced a call for power for BC Hydro. A call for power is not He-Man standing in front of Castle Grayskull. This is that's a Gen X reference. may not land for everybody. It's an open call to independent power producers, First Nations communities. If you have an opportunity to generate electricity for our province, bring it forward. BC Hydro will work with you and award a contract to buy that electricity from you. So we did that first call for power. It was oversubscribed, 5,000 gigawatts of electricity, enough to power 500,000 homes through clean energy, through wind power, through solar. Very impressive in that the 9 of the 10 projects are majority Indigenous owned, and the 10th at 49%. Clear partnerships between industry and First Nations and local communities across the province. Very inspiring stuff, and delivered at a cost that was 40% less than the 2015 BC Hydro call for power. So ensuring that we're continuing to provide affordability around hydro, that we're building our economy, representing billions of dollars in private investment in our province, creating jobs, prosperity in remote communities, including in First Nations. A hugely successful first call. So that is why we're gathered here today. as an announcement that we're building on that success of the first announcement, that we are building more energy here in British Columbia. Today I'm announcing a second call for power, an additional 5,000 gigawatts of clean energy that we're calling for to be produced here in British Columbia, enough to power 500,000 homes, as well as major industrial projects across the province. It is an economic driver in every corner of British Columbia for communities right across this beautiful province of ours. And it's a reflection of two things. One is our commitment to grow our economy, to ensure that we're standing strong as British Columbians, we're relying on our advantages, and we're supporting growth in the industries in which we're strong. And the second is that we believe that climate change is real, that we understand that we have a role to play here in British Columbia in driving down emissions, and clean electricity is the way that we're going to do it. And we're going to address climate change at the same time as we're growing our economy. And I couldn't help but notice the President of the United States, Donald Trump, saying that he doesn't like those windmills that produce electricity. They interfere with the views from his golf courses. Let me tell you, to all American clean energy producers, come relocate to British Columbia. We are the clean energy capital of the world. We're going to do it. We're creating energy here. We're supportive of clean energy, and we will continue to be so. You can join the amazing more than 700 medical professionals that have applied to join our health service from the United States, and we welcome you, and you are welcome here. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the Minister of Energy, our next speaker, with more details about today's announcement. Thanks very much.
Thank you. It's great to be here today. It's great to be here with friends and guests and advocates of clean energy and advocates of economic growth and advocates of action against climate change today. Today we're announcing, and it's out, the request for proposal for this second call for power in 15 months. It's a significant proposal. We're expecting to get from this proposal 5,000 gigawatt hours of clean, renewable electricity annually. Large projects, this time there's no maximum project size cap as there was in the first call for power, and a minimum of 25% equity ownership with options at higher levels, as we saw in the first call for power, and incenting additional benefits outside of equity ownership. We'll be awarding these electricity purchase agreements in early 2026 on or around March the 10th. We expect projects will be in operation from these two calls for power between 2028 and 2033. This builds on that call of power. It means more jobs, job creation, thousands of them in the building of projects, job creation in the electricity produced by these projects, and more ownership opportunities for First Nations. Why do we need that? Because the opportunities in British Columbia, as the Premier has just said, are strong and almost unprecedented, particularly, for example, in our mining sector. And that will be powered in British Columbia by clean electricity. This is a significant importance, but of course, you just have to be here in Metro Vancouver and other communities to know that we also have a growing population and other opportunities. Opportunities from high-tech and IT, AI, and LNG, opportunities that require more clean electricity. And the good news is the cost of clean electricity is coming down, 45% lower in our first call for power than in the previous call for power, which tells us that this is the right investment for people and the right investment to do what BC Hydro has always done, which has had some of the lowest hydro rates in North America. And it builds on a broader program that the Premier talked about, that we announced in May and have been laying out over the last number of months. A request for expressions of interest of firm power, which support other forms of renewable energy. That deadline is September. Requests for expressions of interest on conservation, to build on conservation opportunities that save our resources and are, in effect, by saving resources, inexpensive power, investment in energy innovation. In short, we have a plan, a clean energy plan that will fuel BC's economy into the future. This announcement today builds on a plan that is significant for people, that involves people, involves the private sector, involves First Nations. In fact, these calls for power were designed by BC Hydro with First Nations in British Columbia. So this is action, action, action. There is urgency in this moment. Urgency because we've seen in the United States an attack on Canadian sovereignty. We have to become more self-sufficient and we have to become stronger. This helps us do that. So I want to thank the Premier. I want to thank everyone at BC Hydro for their involvement in this. So also my last opportunity to say thank you. We have a little bit of a transition at BC Hydro, and Chris O'Reilly is retiring after a long contribution, 35 years to BC Hydro, retiring on Friday. Our new president and CEO is just over there, Charlotte Mita. We want to welcome her, and it's really an honor for me to introduce Chris O'Reilly for what? Well, we've still got 3 more days. Yes. Still got 3 more days. A few more steps. But a few more steps to take, but I want to welcome Chris and thank him for all his service to British Columbia and to BC Hydro.
Well, thank you so much, Minister, for your kind words. It's great to be here on the territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations for this really important announcement, and a privilege to stand before you today to talk about the path ahead, one that's powered by our province's abundant natural resources, renewable power, and lasting partnerships. As you've heard from Premier Eby and Minister Dix, BC Hydro is officially launching the 2025 Call for Power today. This is a major step forward in our continued commitment to provide British Columbians with affordable, reliable, and renewable electricity. This initiative supports our thriving economy, it fuels job creation, and helps communities across British Columbia to continue to grow and succeed. We're now issuing a request for proposals to acquire up to 5,000 gigawatt hours annually from clean and renewable resources, and that's enough electricity to power 500,000 homes. Just like last year's call, First Nations participation is central to this. It's not an option, it's integrated deeply in the initiative. Each project must include a minimum of 25% First Nations equity ownership, with incentives up to 51%. These partnerships mark a transformative shift rooted in reconciliation, shared economic prosperity, and First Nations leadership in energy development. We're also collaborating closely with the Canada Infrastructure Bank. Together, we're opening new financing pathways that enable First Nations and clean energy developers to scale their ambitions, to stimulate local economies, and propel British Columbia towards its climate goals. This call for power also complements BC Hydro's broader efforts to expand energy infrastructure, to strengthen grid reliability, and grow with the communities that we serve, all while advancing sustainability and affordability. As has been said, this is my final media announcement as President and CEO of BC Hydro. Over the past 35 years, I've had the privilege of serving British Columbians in a variety of roles in this outstanding organization. As I approach my retirement, I take great pride in the legacy that we've all built together, from record-setting investments in renewable energy to historic collaboration with First Nations. We've laid the groundwork for a cleaner, stronger, and more inclusive energy future. To our BC Hydro employees, Indigenous partners, our customers, industry collaborators, communities, provincial and local governments, we've achieved this together. Thank you for your trust, your leadership, and your vision. As my colleague Charlotte Mita takes over as President and CEO of BC Hydro on Friday, we'll keep the momentum going. And together we'll build an energy future that's clean, inclusive, and resilient. Thank you. And now I'd like to welcome Quatuma Cole-Sayers, Executive Director of Clean Energy Association of BC, to the podium.
Thank you, Chris. I hope you can have some downtime in your retirement. I just want to thank, on behalf of the clean energy industry, just want to thank you for your leadership and your time at BC Hydro. And we welcome Charlotte Mita and her time. We look forward to working with you. It's an honor to join you on the territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Thank you to Abshin, Joan Phillips, for the wonderful welcome here, and to the Premier and the Minister of Energy for welcoming the Clean Energy Association of British Columbia to speak here today. We're honored to be here on the launch of the 2025 Call for Power. My name is Kwatuma Kolseres, and I'm the Executive Director of Clean Energy Association of British Columbia. The launch of the second Call for Power, along with a clear commitment to future calls every 2 years, is an important and necessary step in building the electricity infrastructure that we need to power our province. These calls send a strong signal to the clean energy sector, to investors, and to communities that British Columbia is serious about planning ahead and making the long-term commitments required to meet future demand. At Clean Energy BC, we believe that clean power development is most successful when First Nations are at the center of the process. When nations lead projects on their territories, working in partnership with industry, and supported by meaningful government engagement, the results generate lasting benefits for all British Columbians. These projects will deliver long-term jobs, attract world-class investment, strengthen environmental stewardship, and provide stronger economic growth. The approach announced today advances economic reconciliation. It recognizes the rights and leaderships of nations to own and shape clean energy projects on their lands, guided by their own values and stewardship of their projects. Through collaboration, benefits will flow into communities across the province and create lasting prosperity for First Nations and local communities and all British Columbians. Clean Energy BC applauds continued collaboration on clean energy projects as a meaningful path forward for reconciliation, energy security, and opportunities that will benefit all British Columbians. Together with our members, we are committed to advancing projects that create meaningful benefits, support thriving communities, and leave a legacy of clean energy projects for generations to come. Thank you for having me today. Kleko, kleko.